figure out what your company is good at. And you can see other things, and maybe you can do it, but are you going to be the best at it? Because at the end of the day, you want to be in the longer term relationships, and you want to be successful, and you want your customers to be successful.
A quick interruption to remind you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better. Hey, it's Ari. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Made in America podcast. Today, I've got Ed Planeta, VP of Sales and owner of Acme Wire Products. Ed, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's my pleasure, but it's the Made in America podcast, so we always start off with the same two questions.
Okay.
What do you make, and why do you make it?
Precision wire fabricated components. We make it because we're the best at it, and we provide a service that isn't readily available from other manufacturing facilities in the U.S. So it's worked out well for us.
Yeah, very concise answer, Ed. I love it.
Get to the point.
Get to the point and let's move on. No, that's awesome. And I think some people might be surprised that there's still wire forming products, made here in Connecticut, and that they're the best in the world. And I'm excited to sort of talk about that and how you guys differentiate yourselves. For people that are watching, we got a couple interesting pieces on the table. For those of you that are listening, we'll certainly explain them. But it is a really interesting story. But before we get into the what, I like to go into the why, Ed. Okay. So why are you in manufacturing?
Why am me personally?
You personally, yeah.
A happenstance. Yeah. So my father had a wire fabricating business, and I come from a larger family, 7 kids.
Ooh.
So we all worked part-time, throughout the growth of the company, et cetera. And you grow up, and you try to figure out what you're going to do. And went through high school, worked part-time during the summers, got to college, wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, what to study, what I was going to do after college. But I knew one thing that I was positive on: there was no way I was going to work for my father. So I was in the restaurant business after college. Managed a couple restaurants, owned my own, and then I was getting in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm like, well, do I really want to be doing this in 20 years? And, my father called me in for a meeting. We chatted about it. I said, let's give it 2 years and see what happens. So that was 22 years ago. That was 24 years ago, excuse me. So here we are today.
So I guess it worked out.
It worked out.
22 years past the 2 years.
Exactly.
That's
so
what
the
it was.
Expiration date.
That's right.
It wasn't really documented well, so it was kind of a rolling lease, or indentured servitude, however you look at it.
So your dad founded it in 1970, right?
1970, correct. We just celebrated our 50th year, and was it February 2020? So it was kind of an odd anniversary year.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We made the best of it, and looking forward to another 50 years.
That's great. So he started in 1970. When did you join?
I have to do the math.
24 years ago, so I can do that math, right? I should be able to do that
97.
math. So 97, yeah. Nice. So, and then is your dad still part of the business?
He is not. My oldest sister, Mary, and my brother, Michael, were also in the business at the time. The other 4 sisters are doing other things. And I came in 97, and then we bought my father out in 99. So we've been...
So you were true to your word. You're not going to work for your dad. You gave him the 2 years, and you said, tell you what, Dad, I'll stay. But
after 2 years, it wasn't working out. I had to get rid of him. One of those type of things. So he's still our landlord. He owns the real estate, and he still comes in from time to time and, keeps an eye on things, gives us some guidance.
So I know this is a manufacturing show, but I'm just sort of curious. You said that you got into the restaurant business.
That's correct.
And by your late 20s, you had already founded 2 restaurants?
I didn't found 2. I had managed 2 and owned my own.
What kind of restaurant did you own?
It was an Italian restaurant.
Oh.
So it was, we were stumbling along doing pretty well I think I had it for 2.5 years. And it was getting to one of those points you got to go all in, or you only have so many chances to make a move in life.
Yep.
I can make a move now, recover if I make a mistake. So,
when you're in the restaurant business, what was it that you said when you said to yourself, "Oh, do I want to be doing this in 20 years?" I guess you said no. What was it about?
You're looking at long hours, weekends, nights, and there's a lot of attractiveness to that. But at a certain point, it's like, do you want to be doing this holidays and all these other times? You want to have a little bit more flexibility. Now, moving from restaurant where it's you open the door and it's go all day, that's fine, and there's good and bad with that. But then you go to manufacturing, the sales cycle is totally different, and it was an adjustment. A 9 to 5, and you're not on your feet. You put on 10 pounds in 3 months right off the bat because you're in your car or at your desk. It's a different situation.
How was the transition? So you did a career change, right? So you
Correct.
went from owning a restaurant, which has got some sales aspects to it, but as you just mentioned, it's not the same sales cycle. It's totally different. Right. There's people out there that might be thinking about getting into manufacturing in some capacity. So I'm just curious, maybe you could share with the audience, what was that transition like, for you, and how did you sort of pick it up?
The transition, the most important thing is to figure out what your company is good at. And you can see other things, and maybe you can do it, but are you going to be the best at it? Because at the end of the day, you want to be in the longer term relationships, and you want to be successful, and you want your customers to be successful. So finding what we were the best at and just focusing on that was the most important thing. My father was very aggressive and said, we can do anything. We're the best at everything. And after a couple of years, I'm like, well, we can do anything, but we're not the best at everything. So let's focus on those type of customers where we really excel. And the rest of them, maybe point them in another direction.
That's a really smart business move, but where'd you learn that?
I think it's just dumb common sense. It's, butting your head against the wall. It's like, we're not doing well on this. Somebody's not happy, whether it's our employees or ourselves, or it's just not working out. Instead of, trying to aggravate yourself and everyone else, it's like, let's just do the stuff we're good at. And then we're much more excited about it, much more engaged. And, you found from the employee standpoint, you get rid of those problem jobs that you're not good at. And, they loved it. Let's just do the stuff we're really good at. It makes it easy for them to come in too.
Yeah, and get more success and more joy out of it.
Right.
Yeah. So let's just start something. I wanted to ask you, and I started to ask you kind of pre-show, but I wanted to save it for the show, so I'm going to ask you now. Tell me about the name.
Okay, Acme Wire Products. Back in the olden days of the 20th century, people, when they were looking for a new company to make something, they would go through one of the business directories like Thomas Register, Thomas Regional, and they do what anybody would do. They start with the A's and then work your way through. So my father started, with Acme Wire. His father had a company, which was a wire company, Artistic Wire. Same idea. Different niche of the market, but when my dad started his, it was like, okay, let's start with an A, Acme Wire, and we went on from there.
There you go. He figured he'd one up his dad. He went AC instead of AR.
That's right.
Get even earlier.
Yeah, he wanted to beat my grandfather to the punch. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I was mentioning before. Every time I see Acme, I think of like the old cartoons.
We get that a lot. And there's no affiliation at all.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons we started making our own videos.
Yep.
Because the marketplace is going to define you on their terms or on your terms. So if you can, change the conversation with your website with different little commercials, then they say, oh, you're the guy with the music video on your website. Not the the first thing they think of, which
is the Roadrunner or whatever.
Yeah, Wile E. Coyote. Or
so you should talk about that actually, because one of the things I like to make sure people are thinking about is leveraging new technology in manufacturing. A lot of people think about the technology on the floor, but it is also in sales. It's your website, and you just talked about video. So I maybe share with the audience the kind of fun videos that you guys have done.
Right. So obviously, this is wire fabricating, not something everyone thinks of every day. The thing that fascinates me is the fusing together of two wires with pressure, time, and current. They don't think about that until they need that type of application for whatever assembly or product that they're trying to put together. So they do a web search for wire fabrications or something, and they get all these different websites. So we wanted to make ours a little bit different. So we, first of all, cleaned it up, thought about different target keywords, et cetera, and then we did some videos, one what the company was about, and those were very well received. And then my sister had the idea, why don't we do a stomp video, music of the factory, and we use that as the framework for a video to show what we do and why we do it and how we do it. And it's memorable. So it's not a typical manufacturing video, but it's something when someone sees it, they're like, okay, I kind of get an idea. And it leads them to not having all the answers, but to make the next step in contacting us. Either send us an email, hey, I've got an application I need you to take a look at, picking up the phone. And if they see the individuals in the video that they're going to be talking to, that also makes it more accessible for the target customer.
It's perfect, right? Engage them where they are, have them remember you, and make them want to reach out. I mean, that's the game of the game right there.
Right. And what we do trade shows as well. We're doing one next week up in Marlborough, Massachusetts for Design to Part. And then when people walk by, they're like, oh, yeah, you're the guy with the video. Mm-hmm. And then they stop, engage, okay, what are you working on? What kind of projects do you have? So it helps the market identify you by us identifying who we want, how we want to be seen.
So you mentioned before about the idea of limiting what you guys were doing. One of the things you did in the late 90s when you got involved was work with your brother and sister and say, hey, what can we be the best at? How can we skinny down our product offering to what we could be best at? So maybe talk about how, wire forming, how do you find something that you can be best in the world at that works in sort of Connecticut or U.S. manufacturing, where some people might think, well, this all went to China or whatever.
Right. And a lot has gone to China.
Mm-hmm.
And, what's going to happen then is the things that are going to go overseas, whether it's China or whether it's Mexico or
Singapore
or some other country, not to pick on China, though we can do that all day long. However, if it's something that's easily identifiable, that's more apt to go overseas. Where if it's something that it's like a plate, a clean 2D part that's easy to ship, it's also easy to fabricate. It's easy to figure out how to make it. Those are more apt to go overseas, and also that have the much higher volumes. Mm-hmm. If we do a lot of mid-volume stuff, 500 to 2,500 pieces. Those are kind of our niche, though we're on both sides of that as far as job runs. Those are really more lend themselves more into North America, because of you're not shipping a full container. And then if it's something that needs to be engineered, they need to have that direct involvement with you. So like you take something like this, it's not something that you can easily sketch out. There's a lot of detail on it that you have to work out with the customer, how they're going to use it, how they want it to work together, how it's going to mate up with other parts. It's an engineered component. That's something that really lends itself to North America, and they need to find someone who's local so they don't have to deal with some of those offshore communication issues, time lag, shipping, everything else. So
actually really quickly, because we now did sort of engage some of the stuff on the table. So for people that are listening, we've got 2 wire forms on the table that are completely what Ed was talking about, absolutely 3-dimensional, lots of sort of bends and turns, multiple welds, and they're both for kind of pretty cool specific applications. I got this really neat looking red masky thing, right? That actually is the front of a lacrosse helmet.
Correct.
So that's pretty neat, and looks like you guys did not only the kind of the angled bend on this, right? But you also did the powder coating as well, because it's got this really neat red color to it.
Yeah,
it reminds me of an Iron Man suit red almost.
That's a good way to put it. It's a chrome red, which is a special formulation that came out about 10 years ago. So it works out well. We do it with other colors too. You can get that popping chrome look with red, blue, green, a bunch of other colors as well. We don't want them to go with too many colors.
Right.
But there's a half a dozen key ones that work out great.
That's cool. Yeah, that's nice. And then the other thing, which you asked me to guess before the show, and I was unable to guess what it is, and I don't even know how I would describe it in words, because it is just I mean, whatever. It's got a ton of different bends and welds and hooks and latches. So I was unable to guess what it looked like, but it turns out, Ed, it is.
It's a backpack frame for firefighters. And generally some of the more active firefighting units, armed forces, all four armed forces use this backpack frame, as do New York Fire Department, some of the others. So you might see it on TV. Unfortunately, not in the greatest of circumstances, but they're all using this frame that's put together with the tank, the regulator, the harnesses, straps, everything else, all
so
the
you
electronics.
Probably wouldn't see it, right? Because it'll be covered by some type of fabric and Velcro and attaching.
There's
right?
a lot of that, but once you develop an eye to see wire fabrications everywhere you go, then it pops for you. Like I noticed this thing, and
the
few
finger
others.
on the microphone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You just can't help yourself. You're drawn to it now.
Once you're in the business, you just see wireframe everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's funny. So is the bulk of the business that you guys have with this like complicated wireframing, is it this type of sort of, I'll call specialty application? Do you guys, because I think you guys also do industrial application as well. Like what's?
Yeah, well, we do sterilizer racks for the medical community. We do data center, cable management. We're all over the place. We do sporting goods equipment, a little hook that goes on those armband things,
Like the elastic weight things?
like the Tom Brady band.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
You are. Say whatever you like.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
So that type of equipment where it's a specialty application, we're the guys to call for anything like that. But a lot of it's industrial. We don't have a product that's ready for the commercial market, ready for retail.
Right.
None of that. It's something that someone else is going to put together. The lacrosse mask is a good example. He's putting together with a shell, the bladder system and the helmet, the straps, everything else. We're just one component. So they job out whatever the wire fabrication is to us, and we help them with the design. We're not a design company, but we supply design assistance, tell them what works, what doesn't work, how you're trying to mate this up with the rest of your components, and we'll tell them some of the tricks to make it more affordable and also interact well with the rest of the components.
Sort of value add, right?
I mean, a lot of value add.
You hear that a lot, right? We can't just be people that just make stuff. We got to actually provide a little bit of a service, differentiate ourselves.
Right.
And be like, hey, we'll help you save yourself sometimes from some mistakes, right? If you do this, you could do it a little bit cheaper. If you do that, it'll connect a little bit smarter, right?
Right. And at the end of the day, the customer always owns the design. We provide design assistance, but it's their design. We'll actually help them format the print. How do you want it titled out, toleranced, et cetera. So we provide that service as well when we're designing the parts for us to make for them.
So tell me a little bit about your sort of go-to-market strategy, right? I know your kind of role in the business has been sales and business development. Right. So just interested to understand, like, what is your kind of go-to-market and how do you guys go to market right now?
Most of the time, if we can't figure out what the customer wants, the customer knows that. So generally, they're coming to us and saying, I've got this application. What should I do? Based upon the materials, quantities, how they have it set up, I would say 2/3 of the time, it's not a good fit. And,
really?
And we'll say, based upon this material, what you're trying to do with it, your quantities, the market, we will recommend somebody else. We'll say, my stock line is, I know a guy. And, you just bump into other people in your industry who've got their niche. So you need to call this guy. You need to call this person. This is a good fit. Here's 3 names. Where are you located geographically? Mm-hmm. Sometimes that makes a difference if someone's calling us from California. We do have California customers, but it
has to be the right product.
It's got to be a really good fit.
Yeah,
and if it's something that they need a lot of help with, or it's not a good fit for us, we'll try to find them a good fit for their company based upon where they are, what they're trying to do, et cetera. So it's a lot of guessing game, but it's pretty much tell me what you're trying to do. Tell me what you want to do here.
So real consultative approach. And it sounds like you said 2/3 of the time you're sending it to somewhere
Yeah.
else. So hopefully sometimes people are sending it to you on the reverse of that.
Well, yeah, we hope that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But a good example is we had a major new customer in this past year who's going to be one of our top 5 customers going into 2022, and that was from another wire fabricator in Tennessee who it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't good for the customer. It wasn't good for the producer. They were looking for another option. They both wanted to get out of the relationship. So it was one of those, they went down the list. The customer went down the list of different companies they were looking at, and they said, Acme Wire is the ones we want to be talking to. We transferred everything on. Some of the tooling worked, some of it didn't. We had to requote everything, so we're in the process of transitioning that over to us. So it's
Has it been the same since you started in the late 90s, like this sort of similar strategy of kind of go to market and how you do it? Has it changed?
The market's changed quite a bit, especially with the internet.
Yep.
Because there's just so much information out there, and you got to kind of you got to thin the herd, and the market's looking for somebody, and they don't know who has the expertise in what they're trying to do. So they just scattershot approach, but it's an opportunity to brand yourself and find out things there's no way you're going to find out on your own. When they're coming to you, the internet's just changed everything as far as marketing and as far as selling, et cetera. And then, of course, the last couple of years, everything's changed because nobody wants to see you. It's like they've got something they want to talk about. Well, we're not allowing people in.
Yeah.
So you're doing it all online, either through emails or.
Have you found an opportunity to be able to see? It's hard to make new relationships, right, virtually, but sometimes there's some advantages to be able to see more people more quickly without having to include the drive times.
Oh, yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And you drive a couple hours here, you want to have that tactile, that if they've got a part that they're already dealing with or a prototype, look at it, they can either send it to us or we can take a look at it there or sit down at their facility and take a look at it, and you can find out a lot right then. Oh, this is a good fit or it's not, or this is what you need to do different. The face-to-face is always great, but if you don't have that, it is a time saver, to do it all remotely.
Nice. Yeah. So how do you guys differentiate? You said like things aren't a good fit. So I'm just curious, like how does Acme differentiate itself? How do you guys stand out in the market?
We're all, any type of wire fabricator, we're all working with the same material, very similar equipment. What we do different is we have so much into the tooling where everything is a specialty application, and it's customer-owned tooling. Once we tool something up with a customer, it's theirs. We can't use it for anybody else. So we're about 50 employees, and we've got 10% of our head count and well over that for our payroll based in our tool room with our tool designers and with our tool makers. A typical wire fabricator might have 2%. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very different model where people are trying to do something fast. If it's plus or minus an eighth of an inch, they really don't care, where we're more plus or minus 10 to 30 thousandths of an inch.
Wow.
So it's more, designed in. And then also we have, to focus on a lot of different things like, your face mask, you have to have superior weld integrity. Same thing with your backpack frame for firefighters because it's mission critical. You can't have failure in the field. Say there's something, people are making display racks. That's a large segment of the industry.
Mm-hmm. Display rack, like when I go to the store and use like the quick pick items at the checkout counter,
right.
That type of stuff.
That type of stuff. If something fails in the field, it's no big deal.
Yeah, pick up your M&Ms and move on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of it is disposable. You look at fan guards. That's easily identifiable, but that's a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And
fan guard, you mean like when you have a fan, like a box fan or whatever, that the wireframe in front that keeps you from putting your hand in? Got it.
Or even a fan guard on the back of your computer.
Oh, sure.
Or something like that.
Yeah,
which
for
is,
sure.
In the old days, IBM and Xerox, my father was making those for them, thousands at a time. Now it's a commodity. If you make them as cheap as you can, and if you got to throw out 10% of them, that's part of the process. Where we don't get into that anymore. That, when my father had the business, IBM, Xerox, Polaroid, these were all his, customers. They've gotten out of manufacturing. They're all services companies, and they subcontract out the manufacturing. But that's just, we do maybe 1% of our business with those type of customers now, where before it was well over 50% for my dad, during his generation. So the business changes, and you got to change with it. So every 5 years, we're kind of, okay, this is our new best market, or this is our new best market. That being said, the lacrosse masks we've been making those for 30 years, and the backpack frames we've been doing for 35. Different models, upgrades over the course of time.
Yeah, I was surprised you were telling me before the show also that, given the new, given the new technology and more whatever they need, that you're actually redesigning the backpack frame yet again to incorporate new tech. And it was sort of surprising to me. I was like, I don't know, you just sort of feel like they've been having air tanks on their backs the whole time. Like, it didn't even occur to me that it needed a redesign or an upgrade.
Right. And their market, our customers, 3M, and their market, which is the fire departments, they didn't want to change the frame. They said they like the frame, it's great, but they're changing the rest of the unit because there's so much technology with the electronics that are in the backpack for a firefighter, which makes sense. That because of that and how they're putting more electronics into the backpack frame for the firefighters or for the seamen or for the Marines or for the Army, that they had to redesign the frame. So we're going back and forth on that. And the prototyping's been fun because just when you think you're there, they're like, well,
curveball.
Yeah. And our stuff, it's, this is a very, very complicated, wire fabrication. But the tooling on something that's a plastic is way more expensive.
Really?
Yeah. You're talking 30, tens of thousands of dollars for any plastic or more type of tooling, where your wire, our tooling isn't cheap. We're not giving it away, but it's sometimes easier to change the wire tooling than it is to change the plastic tooling. And then, of course, then you got to get it in the field, get on their back. How does it feel?
Test it.
What's your weight? We want to move this component lower to get the weight differential for whoever. So they got to go through their market testing, and they're finding things out that they didn't plan on. It's like, okay, now we got to change this, and we got to change that.
That does sound like fun, actually. It's pretty cool.
It's good days and bad days.
Making it come here and there. So I kind of want to switch gears just a little bit. You're in a family business, second generation.
Right.
Working with your sister and brother. Where do you stand in the age stack in the I'm in the middle net and in the middle gross. So I'm in the middle of my brother and sister for the 3, and the middle of everybody for the 7. Oh, God, look at you. Middle. Ed's in the middle. That's just right down the middle.
Eddie.
Steady Eddie. Love it. So what's it like kind of having 2 siblings? How do you guys split duty? How do you guys kind of keep the relationship strong? Assuming that it is strong.
Well, it is. We're kind of in an ideal situation because we get along as family members, and we get along as business partners. Not to say that there aren't disagreements or from time to time aggravation, but that you're going to get that at any job, and you're going to get that in any family. So that comes with it no matter what.
Agreed.
But there's not too much drama, which is good. We all live fairly close to each other and fairly close to the business. I'm only a mile from the building, so it works out well. But I'm the first call in a snowstorm. I still got to go in and shovel. But the fact that we get along so well with each other, and we know each other so well, that we know how to push each other's buttons, and we're smart enough not to do it at work. We might do it at a family event, but not at work. And then the other thing is the communication is so much quicker and easier. We don't have to, when we have a meeting, it's a 15-minute meeting. It's not one of these long, drawn-out, well, how do you feel about this, blah, blah, blah. Where do you see your career going, that type of stuff. It's nothing like that. It's more of, let's come up with a a conclusion. We don't have to decide on something now, but we all look at things differently, and that doesn't mean one way is the right way, one way is the wrong way. Sometimes we all come to the same conclusion from a different direction, which is nice. And just the ease, because you have all that shorthand, where I can walk into their office and I really don't have to talk. I can grunt and twitch, and we've just had a conversation, and we know who's doing what and what's going on, and that's it. And like I went in this morning, I had to see some customers today and then swing by here for this opportunity. And I said, okay, I took care of that. I got to work early. I said, I took care of this. This is on your desk. This is on your desk. I'll be back at 4. And that's it. And I was like, yeah, okay, I got that. I got that.
Yeah.
And everything just keeps going on and on.
Do you guys put a lot of work into it to keep that relationship strong, or to kind of create that framework? Was it just there naturally?
It was there naturally, but we all had enough, foresight to let's not screw it up. We got a good thing here. Let's not screw it up. So I think it just comes naturally. And we always try to make sure one of us is always on the property. Yeah. If something comes up with the staff, you can address it immediately.
Right there, yeah.
If something comes up with a customer,
boom.
I was checking my emails in your office before coming in, and it's like, okay, I can respond to this. I can forward it on to my brother or sister, or it can wait till tomorrow. And you can make those quick decisions. So from a customer standpoint, they're getting immediate feedback if they need it. If it can wait, it can wait, and we'll get to it as soon as we can.
So I know we're kind of running long on time, but just got a few more things I wanted to ask you about. One of the things we hear a lot about in manufacturing is like workforce challenges, finding staff, finding the right staff, filling positions. What are you guys seeing at Acme as far as that goes?
It's always tough in any environment. We were fortunate in COVID. First of all, we only had one case, which was nice. And then we didn't have any defections. Everybody stayed.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, we didn't have anyone leave. We had we made all the accommodations necessary for our workforce. Made everyone feel safe, taking their temperatures, constantly, changing kind of the protocols for where we were at each stage of the pandemic. But we still need, because we're going through incredible growth right now, we still need, we need bodies. And my sister Mary's been great at it. She's been hunting people down on Indeed.
Yep.
And if you keep waiting for them to come to you, it's just not going to happen.
I've been saying that. So preach.
You gotta go out there. You gotta hunt them down. So it's one of those. Mary's been very good. Anyone who is on Indeed, who's got a good resume that's well suited for us, let's get them in for a interview and a walkthrough. Because someone might look at on paper, they come in, this isn't the place for me, or we're like, this isn't going to be a good fit. And then we might have them do an aptitude test if it looks like a good fit. And then I've been, if it's a good fit, ask them when they can start, even if it's tomorrow. And I can be here for their first thing in the morning to do their orientation.
Sure.
Let's get them started. Let's not lose a good candidate because we're thinking about it. If someone is capable, they got the aptitude and the attitude, we can train them if they don't have the skills yet. We'll get them there. But you got to get the good opportunities and grab them as soon as you can.
So it sounds like if I could sort of reframe what you said back, it sounds like what we're saying is don't wait for them to come to you. You got to get out there and do it differently. The days of post an ad and wait for people to walk in your door, those days are gone.
Forget about it.
And we got to adapt or die. So get out there and find them. And the second one, which I think is really important, is move fast. I mean, when you're in a tight market, you find someone good. Don't hand wring just to lose it, right? That's what I think I hear you saying.
Yeah, and even if it is a good candidate, for whatever reason, it might not work. So it might take you 3 hires to get 1 keeper. And I've talked to other people, they say that's a great ratio. So if you can do that, where you get these people, you get someone that's like, well, maybe they're better for second shift.
Right.
Maybe first shift isn't working out. Let's try them on second shift or something like that. It depends, but you got to make sure that you're making every effort to find good candidates. And then if you've got them, they're starting, they're doing a good job, make sure you continue to engage with them to make sure that they're going to stay.
Yeah. Have you guys been using any of the sort of the government programs that are out there to try and help find people, or you guys hire anybody out of the MPI? The manufacturing pipeline that's like down.
My sister Mary's been involved with it. She's been working with it. The apprentice program we've been using, that's been great. We just started a new individual in the apprentice program last week. He'd been working with us, I guess about 6 months. He had never worked as a tool maker before, but he, aptitude was off the charts. So let's get him in here.
Get him in.
Let's start him doing this, start him doing that.
Yep.
He's doing great on this. Teach him one more thing, teach him one more thing. Okay, let's put him in the state apprenticeship program and make it more formalized training. And he's a good candidate. So, hey, we want people to find a home. Mm-hmm. It's something that they're going to stick with, not just for a couple months, but for as many years as they want to work there. If they're a good employee. Is
it with three siblings running it? Is it kind of like a family atmosphere at Acme? You think?
It is. It's because it's also sometimes, on the floor too. You get the family squabbles that aren't that big a deal. It's like, really, that's what you're. Someone parked in your spot. It's not assigned parking. It's like, come on. So it's one of those where you've got that kind of atmosphere, and everybody. The good thing is everybody has their strengths, and we try to put them in those opportunities to succeed as much as we can. So, okay, Bill's working on this. This is his work center. Natalia's working on this work center. Juani's working on this center. Jose's working on this work center. So it's you find the people where they're comfortable and they like that groove that they can get in where they're going to be successful every day. Hey, let's keep them being successful.
Absolutely. That's really great. Any other kind of tips or tricks you guys have had to find good people?
No, that's about
pretty
it.
Good. Yeah. How are you guys finding? You mentioned the company's growing a lot, so there's two challenges. Growth means you already found the customers and the orders, basically. So the next one is people to make it, and then the third one is the materials. And I'm just curious. I hear a lot about material challenges. Certainly in my business, the chip shortage is a giant pain.
Right.
Just curious, kind of your business, how you guys finding?
It's a challenge. You have two issues: cost and availability.
Yep.
My brother's on the purchasing side. He's operations. We kind of saw things happening back in the winter, and we were ahead. We ordered ahead of it, so we got ahead of the curve. We thought we were well ahead of the curve. We were really just ahead of the curve, and we've got some typical material specs that we always stock. You get down to a certain point, don't wait, order. We know we're going to go through it. We don't have orders for it. Doesn't matter.
Have you sort of changed your kind of min-max numbers, like
a little bit,
a little earlier?
We're going a little heavier now. There's some specialty items that are just. They say it's like normally it would be 3 to 4 weeks to get the material. Well, all of a sudden you're getting quoted 8 weeks. Okay, it's 8 weeks, and then it turns out the delivery is 12 weeks. Oof. So those are crushing, and you're communicating as much as you can with your customers and letting them know, all right, we're delayed because of this. And they understand too, because we're not the only ones. We're all in the same environment.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is you just don't want to be that last guy. You don't want to be the gating item.
That's right.
So if you can just be faster than
what's what they say about being chased by a lion. You don't have to be the fastest person. You just can't be the slowest one.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been keeping pretty far ahead of it. Cool. While falling behind on what our typical lead times are. But we've also communicated with our customers that our lead times have been stressed. So instead of what used to be 4 weeks is now 6 weeks, used to be 6 is now 8, et cetera.
That's great. Listen, just one of the common themes we talked about here is just like really smart thinking. It's the way you guys thought about your products and defining your products to be things that you can be the best in the world at and very successful. Thinking about getting creative on how we're recruiting, thinking about getting creative about how we're stocking materials. These are all may seem like individually little things, but they must add up to just huge benefit.
And at the end of the day, it's like, don't overthink it. and don't screw it up. It's just, everything's working well. What can we do? It's like, and it's got to be where you're supporting, all the little things that need to be done. Like you said, you just got ahead of it, because there's things that have come up that you don't even see coming. So
that's
right.
life, that's business, that's life in business.
Right.
You're always seeing new things. That's awesome, Ed. It's been really great, kind of hearing about your story and the story of Acme Wire. I'm going to flip us over to our rapid fire round of questions.
Oh my God!
You ready?
Strap in.
All right, hang tight. Yeah, strap in. You ready? Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Dunkin'.
Staycation or exotic destination?
Exotic destination.
iPhone or Android?
Android.
Sports car or SUV?
Sports car.
If you had to do something, Ed, other than be the VP of sales and owner of Acme Wire Products, could be anything in the whole world, but it had to be something different, what would you do?
Ooh. I like to be a theater critic.
Theater, like live plays.
Yeah.
Look at you, a little Cisco.
I don't know if I'd be
Ed.
successful at it. No, not film, but live
I know.
play.
Yeah, it was good.
Right.
Do you have a favorite business book?
Oh, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Yeah, that's actually a good book. I haven't read that one in a long time. What's something, Ed, that you learned early in your life or early in your career that you think helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
Equity over debt.
Equity over debt.
They teach college today. They have it flipped. They're teaching these kids at a young age, oh yeah, don't worry about the debt. Here's some more debt. Here's some more debt. You can do whatever you want. Here's some debt. And it just crushes them for 10 to 20 years. And I had a lot of debt when I was younger, but as soon as I became debt-free, never again.
Never again. That's actually really, really smart. I hope people take that to heart. And finally, what's something you learned later in your life or later in your career that if you went back to tell young Ed, and if young Ed would listen to you, it'd make a huge impact on his life?
Ooh. I've many times woken up and said, I shouldn't have had that last drink. But I've never woken up and said I should have had one more.
There you go. Fair enough. Fair enough. Moderation, the key to happiness.
There's a lot to that.
Oh, I love it. Ed, thank you so much for coming on. It's been, I know your sister a little bit. It's been great to get to know you, to hear about this great Connecticut company. Just not too many people probably know about Stonington, Connecticut, and probably fewer know the great stuff that's going on down at Acme Wire. So I appreciate you coming on and telling us about it.
Thanks, and come to see us at our place anytime you want.
Will do.
Thanks.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct, a CompassMSP company.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a community where we can learn and grow together. Your input, feedback, and engagement is critical to making that happen. Please do comment, like, and subscribe so more and more people can hear what we're doing and join our community of growth and success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you again soon.